Good morning. I've bled a lot of brakes in my life. Sometimes on the same vehicle. 5, 7, 12 times. Because if there's one thing I like doing, it's anything twice. And I don't see anybody clamoring for the victory of I've bled the most brakes. But we're going to bleed some brakes today. Again. Great. So the other day I referred to this whole system as like the brake bleeder 19,021, which made me even question whether that was a date in the future or the past. But I thought about it and it's definitely yes. It's made by Phoenix. It's called like the V5. They've got like V through whatever, like 12. I don't know if it's like trying to be cute like Kia and like kind of call their names like coupes spelled wrong, but they work pretty good. It's kind of hard to get vehicles to bleed the first time, like when they're like brand new and all the lines are empty. So you got your buddy sauced up in there trying to press the brake pedal while you're trying to open it and close it at the right time, and it just doesn't go well. I like doing these because they work really fast, pumps a whole bunch of fluid backwards through this fifth system, it fills your reservoir at the same time, and it lets you know like super quickly if there's actually a leak in there or not. The reason I don't like the Phoenix brake system is if you ever need a part for it, they make it super awful to get replacement parts. They only sell replacement parts for a system that like I didn't buy, and when you get them, it's missing some of the replacement parts you actually need. So the other day when I went and bought the single man's bachelorette lone survivor brake bleeder kit from O'Reilly's, I was kind of buying it for two reasons. Not only this was my backup plan to bleed the car, but also I needed these little needle fittings, and they work really well on this Phoenix system for replacement parts since you can't buy the adapter coupler from Phoenix without buying a new set. These work really well even if you're using two people. I'd say they actually work better with two people. You pick a dude that's got the short stick out of the group and you go get under the car, you hook it all up, and then you just say pump, and then they start filling the reservoir up with brake fluid. With you keeping pressure on that little needle, that keeps it from spraying out and flying everywhere like a hose. Because that's super fun to realize if you're doing this just with just one person. You get under the car, hook it all up, get out of the car, go press the brake pedal 10 times and get back underneath the car and realize that you just sprayed brake fluid all over everything, and that didn't go well as you had intended. So I actually really like these for just normal brake bleeding. This is what we used to use before we invested in this super expensive thing that you can't buy parts for. We would just hook up a vinyl rubber line. I like doing clear so you can see if there's air bubbles in it, but you can do whatever line you want. Vacuum tubing works really well. And hooked it up to the end here, ran it over to the brake caliper, and then just squeezed it all the way up. It fills with brake fluid, go around to every wheel cylinder or caliper on the car, and you've got that initial charge, and then that way you can test for leaks. Foreshadowing, everyone, we tested for leaks on the Buick and it's got one. Ironically, if you saw the other videos, it looks really good, and I will still say it works fine. I just have a weep coming from one fitting. I've already tightened it up. It seems to be doing fine. It's been a couple days of just sitting, letting it try to gravity bleed. And speaking of gravity bleeding, if someone can chime in with some positive things to say about gravity bleeding, because this is my experience with gravity bleeding. You've got a high point in the system, like this, tubing for instance. And when you've got an air bubble, that air bubble's just going to find its way to the new high point. Even if I take the fitting on the other end off of this gun so it's no longer just sitting pressurized, that air bubble in here just stays here. This has been my experience with gravity bleeding, is you just leave air bubbles in all the high points. If somebody can chime in a way I need to do this better or make it work better, I would love to understand it, because I've tried to gravity bleed before and I just don't get it. And it might just be dumb. I'm okay with that. We're all okay with that. But it's just something to think about. As another little tip, I know that this will fit every brake bleeder, and actually it fits most bolts from my experience, but it's not the most convenient to use for anything, actually. What I recommend using for the calipers is figuring out exactly what size you need and making sure you've got a wrench with a box end on it, so that way you can get it in the right position on the caliper and swing it down and let that be open. And so when you're ready to actually tighten it up, all you have to do is with one hand is slide this guy up and snug it before you stop. This is my best trick for that, and I like using stubby wrenches for that. This set's from a cheap place. You can get 20% off coupons. I'm not going to go into names here, but they're like the cheapest stubby wrenches I can find. So here we go. Let's go get started. Back under the car, exactly where we wanted to be. I mentioned earlier that you want to get your wrench on it like a little bit of an angle, so that way when it falls, it'll be open. And that's exactly the spot I've got it in right now. I've got my Blake Shelton Bleeder 9021 over here, ready to be connected. And here we go. Let's do this. And before you release pressure, firm up that screw. It's the only recommendation I can really give is that if you release that nipple off of the bleeder before you've actually released fluid, you may get air in there. Just give her one more little snugging down. Don't use your ugga-duggas here. Use your mini ugga-duggas. You don't want to strip that thing out because then you're going to have two problems. And just like I say about doing things twice, two problems are more than one. Understood. Just going to use a little bit of brake cleaner and wipe her down. Does it need this? Probably. What's losing a few brain cells to brake cleaner got to do? Welcome to the other side. So if you haven't noticed, the wheels aren't off, she's not jacked up or anything, and that's my love affair with air ride vehicles. All I did was pump a whole bunch of air into the back, and then just crawled under it. It's one of the best mods you can do to any vehicle. The easy to get on and work on your problems mod. It's actually awful, don't do it. It causes more problems. Okay, you gotta get a good shot of your arm and totally block everything from the camera. But believe me, we're doing the same thing we did on that side over there. We're gonna open that up. It's trying to gravity bleed, but probably not, based on my experience. And now we're gonna start pumping fluid into this bad boy. Okay. Got a little bit more messy on that one, but still, only like one little splooge at the end is still more than most brakes. Clean it up real fast. Good, it got on the tire. That's exactamundo where I wanted to get it. Not actually sure what's worse for a car's tire, rubbing it down with brake fluid or rubbing it down with brake fluid cleaner. Neither of them sound good for rubber, but that's how you clean tires around here. So as you can see, I'm not fully committed to sitting in this car, because if you sit in the car too early, that means you're just not gonna finish anything. You're just gonna shift it through the gears and floor it magically. So I'm not gonna sit all the way in. But I am going to press this brake pedal and give some feedback. Oh, ho, ho. I didn't realize it might have had a little bit more air in it the first time than the last. We got a little bit of a dead space, maybe a quarter of a press.
Not really sure, but then it grabs firm. So these are all new brakes. That might just be the way they are. It also might have a little bit more air. We'll let her settle, maybe bleed her in a couple weeks. But hey, that's progress in the right direction, and that's all I ask of things around here. Have a good day.